Welcome to Storytimer at Large. Sarah Catherine Schafer. Sarah Catherine Schafer was born on the 10th of June in 1880. She grew up in Elkhart, Indiana. Her family had saved and sacrificed to send her to college in Danville, Illinois, so that she could become a teacher. And she did succeed in that goal. She completed her education and did become a teacher. Sarah loved music. She grew up in a family that really appreciated music. She loved to sing. Elkhart, Indiana was settled by many German families who had studied music. One of the biggest industries in Elkhart has long been the manufacturing of musical instruments. I first heard of Elkhart when I was in the 4th grade and started playing flute in the school band. That's one of the great things about public schools in the Midwest. A lot of times they're very active music and band and chorus and things like that. They have a lot of music and things you can get involved in and learn new skills, and I really like that. I still have my Gemeinhardt flute that was made in Elkhart, Indiana. A high school boyfriend of Sarah's was eager to marry her, but she kept sort of putting him off. She really wanted to pursue her career as a teacher and see more of the world before settling down. She taught Latin at the high school in Elkhart, but later took a job further south in Bedford, Indiana. Her family might have had fears about her moving so far away to work, but they knew she would be staying in a good home with a local doctor and his wife. She would be traveling to Bedford by train. They made sure she had a seat in a section of the train reserved for professionals. A young woman on her own had to be careful out in the world, after all. Bedford, Indiana is probably best known for the beautiful white limestone that is quarried there. Quarries in and around Bedford and Bloomington provided much of the limestone that went into many famous buildings in the United States. Grand Central Station in New York City, the Pentagon, and the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. are just 3 examples of buildings made with Bedford, Indiana limestone. If you watch, there's a movie from the 70s called Breaking Away, and if you watch that movie, you'll see the young fellas in that movie go swimming in an old quarry around Bloomington and Bedford. Sarah Catherine Schafer arrived in Bedford at the end of the summer in 1903. She took up her post as the Latin teacher. At first, she roomed with a local doctor there and his wife. She took meals at another popular rooming house, at Mrs. Johnson's house, I believe it was. And then later, she moved to a different rooming house where a friend of hers stayed. That way she could have a little bit more company. It was, I think, a fellow teacher who lived in that other rooming house. And when a place was available, a room was available, she was able to move in there. Sarah was well liked by her colleagues and her students, and things were going well. The first semester of school was completed. Christmas break had happened, and things were back to business in January. But on January 1st, 1904, Sarah was murdered. She was found in the carriage house behind William Cook's home. She had been beaten to death and suffered severe head injuries. A cobblestone or brick was the supposed murder weapon. Sarah had fought for her life. She had attempted to injure the man with her hat pin. A hat pin back in those days was a gal's best friend. If someone was trying to grab onto you, you could pull that hat pin out of your hat, which was a long thing, sometimes about 9 to 10 inches long, maybe even longer. Very sturdy, not thin like a pin you might use for sewing, but a sturdy sort of pin, and a little, not as thick as an ice pick, but almost. And it kept your hat secured. People in those days had that hairstyle that was piled up on the head, and then you would pop your hat on top, and then you would thrust the hat pin through the hair, and out the other side of the hat to keep your hat in place. But she did try to pull her hat pin out and fight the man off. Her hat was found further away from her body outside of the carriage house. She had struggled to free herself, but the man had dragged her down the alley and into the carriage house. Sarah was sexually assaulted there. She was also found clutching a few hairs in one hand. That morning, she was found by William Cook. He was called Captain Cook because of his former rank in the Union Army during the Civil War. Before police could arrive, nearly 50 people had trampled in and out of the carriage house to view the victim. Investigators questioned many suspects in town. One suspect, James McDonald, was known by many in town to be violent with his wife. She had been seen often with black eyes and bruises. The hairs found in Sarah Schafer's hand were thought to be a match to James McDonald's facial hair. Sarah's family came to Bedford and accompanied her body back to Elkhart. She was buried there at Grace Lawn Cemetery in Elkhart, Indiana. Her family members all eventually joined her there as the years passed by. They all rest together under large shade trees. They have matching headstones, just simple rectangular stones. And it looks like a very peaceful place, a very beautiful place there. Sarah's murder ignited many newspapers to write extensively about the investigation and the trial. Each person who knew and worked with Sarah was examined and was written about. James McDonald, the man who had often been known to injure his wife, to beat his wife, was placed under arrest. He was arrested. He was tried. His trial took place in the spring of 1904. Despite it didn't look good for him. He always maintained his innocence, but there were, things brought up at trial that just didn't make it look too good for him. But again, there was no hard evidence, no fingerprints of his, nothing that was really, the hairs were managed to be, dismissed, that could have been anything. So he was found not guilty in late May of 1904. Was he actually guilty, though? Well, it's difficult to say. As I said before, he made his stance that he was innocent before, during, and after the trial. Sarah Catherine Schafer's murder is still considered unsolved. Rest in peace, Sarah.